Hey friends, welcome to Hominid History Hub. Whatever position you are laying in right now, whatever light you have on in your room, whatever vibration your mind is in tonight, slow down for the next few minutes with me, because this story you are about to hear is extremely strange, extremely rare, extremely real, and the deeper it goes, the more your nervous system will begin to relax, not from fear, but from the realization that you are floating inside a timeline far older than conscious memory. I want you to just stay here with me in this calm, quiet zone. You can keep scrolling later. You can answer messages later. Right now, your body deserves to slow down, and as you listen, you can allow yourself to drift, because this story is true science. And true science sometimes feels more supernatural than fiction ever could. And before we continue, if you haven't subscribed yet, do it gently now, so when tomorrow's continuation uploads, it automatically reaches you while you sleep. And also tell me in the comments, where are you listening from right now? And what kind of stories your brain feels safest sleeping inside? There is something very specific and very uncomfortable about human evolution that most people never consider deeply. We know Neanderthals existed, we know Denisovans existed, we have bones, we have teeth, we have fragments. Those are testable realities. But inside the genome of modern humans, there is a signature of another hominin, a species-level population that lived, mated, influenced our survival probabilities, and then vanished so perfectly that we have never found a single bone fragment. Not one. Nothing. It does not show up in archaeology. It does not show up in caves. It does not show up in fossil sequences. It only shows up in math. And if a species only shows up inside math, that means the only way we know it existed is because it changed us, without being seen. That alone is already quietly terrifying in a gentle, slow, scientific way. Genomicists call this a ghost population, not paranormal, not demon, not spirit. Ghost because the physical evidence is missing. Ghost because the impact is real, but the body is absent. Ghost because it touched our lineage without leaving a trace of itself in the soil. When paleogeneticists first ran deep Bayesian inference models, they expected two admixture events: Neanderthal, Denisovan. That was easy. But then there was a third signature: faint, quiet, but stubborn. It kept showing up no matter how they tuned the model. This means something interacted with us in Africa long before we left Africa. Something that was close enough to us to mix genes, but distant enough to be a separate branch. Something that mattered in the construction of our neurological trajectory, but something we cannot place inside any known fossil family. Now I want you to imagine this slowly, softly, like flowing water in the back of your mind as your eyelids get heavier. Imagine early humans walking through humid African nights 200,000 years ago, long before ice sheets carved the north, long before language fully stabilized, long before myth even had material structure. And imagine that the earliest humans were not alone. There was another variant walking beside them, but not quite them. And that lineage, for a while, slightly shifted selection pressure just enough to change what our stress response eventually became. So every time you feel calm, every time you choose curiosity over panic, every time you can fall asleep even when the world feels uncertain, part of that might be inherited from something that no longer exists. The strangest part is that this ghost hominin was not a monster. It was not evil. It was simply different, maybe more silent, maybe more nocturnal, maybe more patient. And the fact that it never fossilized into our memory means that the world had whole versions of humanity that evaporated like mist before we ever learned to write. That is the part that always makes me feel small in a comfortable way, because if the world could hold entire human branches that left zero physical evidence, then that means our imagination is still too small for what reality actually was. The tent lightly clicks and flexes in warm African night wind, as if the fabric itself remembers something older than the species inside it. Outside, insects write microscopic electric code into the dark. Night animals breathe in unison with humidity itself, and a graduate paleoanthropologist sits cross-legged inside, staring at the dim green monitor glow, adjusting admixture sliders in a program she has been tuning for months. Sleep deprivation and wonder feel chemically similar sometimes. Her work does not look dramatic, but what she is doing is closer to archaeology inside data than anything physical in sand. She keeps breathing slowly through her mouth, almost subconsciously preparing her body to not reject what she thinks she is about to confirm. These researchers travel light. Minimal gear, minimal noise. Their entire methodology is built around not disturbing ecology more than absolutely needed. They sleep close to the ground. They eat simply. They use whispers at camp like monks in reverse time, quietly chasing ghost mathematics backward into origin. And every so often, they sit outside the tent at night and imagine what the world felt like before language finally gained enough symbolic density to trap time into story. What humans felt like before certainty was invented, before identity was rigid, before belief was geometry. In some ways, what she is doing is not discovery. It is remembering. The sun in this region bleeds into horizon in a color that makes entire air feel halfway unreal. Heat and dust make your vision blur at the edges, so light itself looks like old dream footage. And yet, all the drama tonight is inside this one tent, inside her laptop, inside model runs that she is looping over and over with slight parameter changes. The signature is still there. No matter what she excludes, no matter what she clamps or suppresses, no matter which known hominin lineage she mathematically subtracts, something remains. A ghost lineage that refuses to disappear. Not noise, not glitch, not contamination. Something consistent, something that contributed in a real way to us, and then vanished from the fossil record like an erased chapter. In the morning, she will need to radio back to the main camp about the latest output. But right now, she can feel her eyelids closing without effort. She can feel her nervous system dissolving into the same calm the early humans must have experienced when the ghost hominin was still alive, still walking next to them, still part of the night. That sensation is not fear, it is humility. It is the sensation of being a late arrival in a world that had other humans first. And the thing that makes this entire moment so strangely peaceful is realizing that maybe we were never alone. Maybe the world never belonged to only one type of human. Maybe we are not a clean, linear story. Maybe we are already blended inheritance. She closes her eyes fully now, same way you might be letting yours go softer right now. She knows tomorrow will change science. She knows the world is bigger than we ever gave it permission to be. And she lets her breath slow, almost as if letting her body remember instructions from a lineage no museum will ever display. And tonight, in this warm, quiet African wind, her last conscious thought before sleep is simple. Maybe we were never the beginning. Maybe we were always already the after story. And maybe that is why this feels soft, not horror, just a gentle returning, a gentle remembering, a gentle dissolving of ego scale into planetary scale. Because if there really was another lineage, and if they really did mix with us, then their quiet signal never vanished. It is inside everyone alive tonight, including you, including her. The story is not outside. The story is inside bone itself, inside blood, inside sleep. Outside the tent, night continues, indifferent and kind. The insects continue writing their invisible electric code. The wind continues brushing its memory across fabric. And somewhere in the network of living night, the world is gently exhaling, like it has been waiting for humans to finally notice this and not be afraid. So tomorrow, when she opens that laptop again, the world will not suddenly become darker or stranger. It will simply become more honest, more complete, more full. That is all evolution ever was. Completion. The night continues around the tent like a slow heartbeat. The wind brushes gently against the canvas, carrying with it the faint scent of dry earth and distant leaves. Inside, the graduate researcher is still awake, her eyes heavy, but her mind lightly humming with patterns only she can perceive. The models she runs flicker on the screen, sliding sequences of genetic probabilities that hint at something ancient, something persistent. She leans back against the fabric, allowing the soft glow to wash over her, letting it bleed through her eyelids into the deeper recesses of her mind. She knows she is seeing not just numbers, but echoes. Echoes of beings that lived and vanished before humans could fully comprehend lineage or time. Her notebook lies open beside her, pages filled with faint sketches of gene flow diagrams, hand-drawn lines of imagined migrations, curves tracing the impossible shape of a ghost hominin, weaving itself subtly into our history. She flips back a page slowly, her fingertips brushing ink that has already dried, as if connecting her hand to those long vanished threads. Outside, the nocturnal chorus continues, a distant owl, the chirp of crickets, the soft rustle of unseen mammals in the undergrowth. It is a symphony of subtle life, each sound a reminder that existence carries on quietly, even in the absence of human observation. She inhales slowly, feeling the humid African night saturate her lungs and calm her heart, letting her body absorb the rhythm of an ecosystem that is older than any story she has ever been told. Every few moments, she toggles the visualizations on her laptop, watching as lines of code, probability densities, and model outputs shift. Somewhere in the pattern, the ghost lineage reveals itself again, just a subtle bend in the curve, not violent, not abrupt, not terrifying, just persistent, like a whisper in a forest too vast for any single human to navigate. She leans closer, not in fear, but in reverence, letting the depth of time press gently against her awareness. It is the sort of sensation that makes one both tiny and expansive at once, the mind folding in on itself while stretching outward across epochs. A lineage long gone has left a trace not of bone, but of pattern, not of flesh, but of signal, and she can feel it almost like a vibration along her nervous system. Minutes pass as though they are hours, and hours pass as though they are minutes. She begins to trace the signal in her imagination, visualizing early humans walking under the same sky, sensing, noticing, surviving. And somewhere beside them, quiet, patient, unseen, the ghost hominin moves. Its impact is subtle, shifting survival strategies, nudging adaptations, shaping neural responses long before language captured experience. The realization presses softly against her mind that much of what humanity thinks of as instinct, as calm or fear response, may be whispered guidance from a species that no longer exists, leaving a molecular memory rather than physical remains. The night deepens, and with it comes a kind of luminous stillness. The researcher's eyelids flutter slowly, heavy, but not closing entirely. Her hands rest lightly on her knees, as though to anchor herself in the present, while her mind drifts across ancient savannas and shaded forests. She imagines the light of fire flickering in the distance, distant human gatherings, and the silent observer moving in tandem with them, without imprinting on history in any concrete form. It is not fear that she feels, it is awe, humble awe, soft as a cloud, gentle as a lullaby. The world, she realizes, was never simple, and perhaps it is still not. The glow of the monitor begins to fade as the battery runs low, but the patterns remain embedded in her mind. She can feel the gentle pulse of evolutionary history, a current running invisibly through her own cells. Her thoughts drift slowly outward, tracing the faint lines of influence, the quiet shaping of early minds. And somewhere beyond her awareness, the ghost hominin's presence remains. Not alive, not physical, not threatening, simply present in the slow drift of time, woven into the very structure of those who came after. The night exhales, and she exhales in return, her body soft, her mind receptive, and her spirit anchored in the gentle mystery of life that stretches far beyond the reach of observation. Outside the tent, the African night stretches infinitely. The insects continue their microscopic symphony. The wind carries stories of the past, and the trees sway with a rhythm older than human memory. Inside, she drifts deeper into the sensation that knowledge is not always tangible, and that sometimes understanding comes quietly, gently, without the need for sound or demonstration. And as she drifts towards sleep, the ghost hominin lingers just at the edge of her mind, an imprint in the calm, a signal in the quiet, a reminder that the story of humanity is neither simple nor complete, and that the deepest truths often travel invisible paths, waiting for patient witnesses to notice them. The first light of dawn creeps slowly over the horizon, spilling gold and muted amber across the uneven terrain of the African field. The researcher stirs lightly, her limbs heavy, but guided by the rhythm of the morning. The night has left its subtle residue, a quiet hum of revelation woven into the folds of her consciousness. Her mind replays the patterns she observed, the ghostly lineage she traced through sequences and simulations, not as abstract numbers now, but as a presence that gently insists on acknowledgement, a quiet reminder of the depth of time and the complexity of life that predated her waking understanding. She steps out of the tent, feeling the crisp morning air brush against her skin, carrying with it the sense of dew, earth, and distant vegetation. Each inhalation is a gentle awakening of senses dulled by night, yet sharpened by curiosity. The land is alive, though in ways not immediately visible. Tiny movements in grass hint at small mammals, insects hum in syncopated patterns, and somewhere overhead, birds call in sequences that seem almost deliberate, as though participating in the ancient pulse of the planet. She allows herself a slow, careful breath, aligning her heartbeat with the cadence of the environment. The thought that humans, long ago, shared this same space with now vanished lineages floats unbidden, a delicate layering of awe and wonder in her mind. At the edge of a shallow excavation, her colleagues move quietly, each aware that their presence is minimal but significant. Tools are light, gestures precise, conversations reduced to whispers that barely rise above the subtle murmurs of the waking world. Every motion seems measured, respectful of the fragile boundary between discovery and disturbance. Her gaze falls upon a patch of exposed sediment, a delicate stratigraphy that might hold keys to the ghost lineage inferred from her data. Tiny flecks of mineralized bone or tooth fragments, if they exist, could validate decades of mathematical predictions. The possibility feels almost sacred, yet she approaches it without expectation, letting observation be her guide rather than desire. She crouches, hands hovering over the soil, and imagines the landscape as it might have been hundreds of thousands of years ago. Early humans navigating humid nights,
foraging quietly, sharing moments of survival without the permanence of written memory. And alongside them, the subtle presence of the ghost hominin, its movements calculated, patient, almost imperceptible, shaping outcomes in ways invisible to the eye but encoded deep in DNA. The sensation of being tethered to a lineage that was never fully seen, yet undeniably real, sends a soft thrill of comprehension through her body. It is not fear, it is the reverence of recognition, a deep, internalized understanding of continuity and influence. She begins to carefully sift the sediment, small brushes in hand, her motions fluid and deliberate. Particles of dust lift gently, caught by the rising light, turning the air into a golden haze. Each speck feels alive in its own right, a witness to time, carrying within it traces of water, wind, and the countless footsteps of generations long past. Her mind traces invisible connections, how a single nucleotide shift could ripple into neurological tendencies, how subtle shifts in environmental pressures shaped early cognition, how absence in the fossil record does not equate to absence in influence. These thoughts flow seamlessly, almost like water moving over stones, carrying her consciousness deeper into understanding. Hours pass with minimal acknowledgement, each task executed with measured care, each observation logged in meticulous notes. Her body is tired, but her mind is expansive, stretching across epochs, feeling the ghost lineage's subtle hand in shaping survival, adaptation, and quiet behavioral tendencies. She pauses occasionally, gazing across the plains, letting the wind carry away fatigue and fill her with the sense of ancient continuity. The realization is simple yet profound. The human story is never linear, never solitary. It is a tapestry woven from threads, seen and unseen, tangible and inferred, living and long vanished. And within that awareness, there is a calm that settles deep into the core of her being, soft and enduring, like a lullaby sung by the planet itself. By midday, the sun has climbed higher, casting longer shadows across the excavation site. Each movement, each breath, each careful stroke of brush and hand adds to a growing internal narrative, one that is both scientific and profoundly poetic. She reflects on the patterns in her data, the subtle signals that first drew her to the ghost lineage, and the way those patterns now feel alive within the world she inhabits. It is not discovery in the conventional sense, not triumph over nature,
but an intimate dialogue with time itself, a recognition that presence is not measured solely in bone or artifact, but in influence, persistence, and the gentle echo of existence across millennia. In that quiet understanding, she finds a peace that is as deep as the night from which she awoke, a resonance that carries with it the soft gravity of ancestral memory. The afternoon sun begins to tilt toward the horizon, scattering long, gentle shadows across the African plain. The researcher moves slowly, her body attuned to the rhythm of the earth beneath her feet, her senses alive to the smallest vibrations in soil, leaf, and air. Each movement is deliberate, each glance intentional, as though time itself has become a pliant medium, bending softly around her awareness. In the back of her mind, the ghost hominin's influence hums, a faint pulse traced in the genetic signature she has been tracing, subtle and pervasive, an echo that refuses to be silenced. She breathes deeply, letting the warmth of the sun mix with the cool whisper of wind, a perfect balance of elemental currents that seem almost conspiratorial in their quiet insistence that she notice the unseen. Her hands, now steady and practiced, manipulate brushes and small tools with careful precision. Particles of ancient sediment shift lightly under her touch, releasing faint clouds of dust that glint in the sunlight like tiny constellations suspended mid-air. She traces patterns in the soil with a patience that feels infinite, imagining early humans walking along the same terrain, making decisions that shaped survival with instincts guided by both awareness and inherited subtle influence. Beside them, invisible to all but the mind trained to perceive the trace, the ghost lineage moved. Not shadow, not spirit, not creature, but a presence that left its mark in probability, in adaptation, in the silent shaping of human response. The thought presses softly against her consciousness, a gentle gravity that does not alarm but invites reflection. She pauses occasionally, tilting her head to watch the interplay of light on distant trees, the slow sway of grasses in the wind. There is a rhythm to everything, the measured pace of insect movement, the whispered pulse of unseen creatures, the cadence of her own heartbeat slowly sinking to the wider life around her. In that moment, time itself feels less linear, more layered, a sedimentary archive of living influence stretching across centuries and species. Her mind drifts gently through equations and models, revisiting each probability curve with the intimate knowledge of someone who has lived alongside data, who has felt it like a tactile texture in her mind rather than a series of abstract digits. And within that drift, the ghost lineage seems to lean in, a quiet collaborator, whose work is written in the cells of her own body as much as in any digital simulation. A soft breeze carries distant animal calls to her ears, each note a punctuation in the slow unfolding of the day. She imagines the early humans responding in their own subtle ways, and the ghost hominin adjusting, shifting slightly, nudging events with a delicate influence imperceptible to anyone not attuned to these faint currents. The realization that life itself is layered in such unseen complexity brings a gentle thrill that spreads from her mind through her chest and limbs. It is a sensation that asks not for alarm, but for quiet appreciation, a meditation on the intricacy of survival and the invisible threads that connect us to both past and present. Hours pass, with the sun descending, turning the land into a tapestry of long shadows and warm amber light. Each careful movement she makes is recorded, both physically in her notes and internally as a mental map of patterns, connections, and possible outcomes. The ghost lineage remains a silent presence in her awareness, an invisible guide that has influenced countless generations, leaving fingerprints of adaptation, resilience, and subtle strategy. Her body relaxes into the rhythm of the field, attuned not only to her own breath, but to the slow pulse of the terrain around her. It is not mere work she is doing, it is a dialogue with the deep past, an intimate listening to echoes of life that existed long before humans codified memory into stone and ink. As the day yields to dusk, she allows herself a moment to pause fully, letting her eyes close briefly and absorb the sensation of being a witness. The landscape hums softly around her, alive with hidden activity, carrying the soft legacy of creatures both present and vanished. The ghost hominin's imprint feels almost tender here, a reminder that survival is not only measured in bones or artifacts, but in influence, in the gentle shaping of thought, instinct, and behavior across time. And as she leans back, letting the soft shadows envelop her, she feels the weightless reassurance of connection, the calm understanding that the story of humanity is not linear, and that unseen hands, subtle, patient, enduring, have always been part of the unfolding. Sleep comes softly on the edge of consciousness, a gentle companion in the vast, quiet continuity of existence. The evening sky stretches wide and low, muted colors blending as the sun gives way to night. The African plain softens under the dimming light, every shadow long and gentle, every sound a slow pulse in the quiet expanse. The researcher sits cross-legged again, back inside the tent, the glow of her monitor casting a soft light over the pages of notes and diagrams scattered around her. The patterns remain, persistent, faint, but undeniable. The ghost hominin's signature tracing through generations like a whisper in the very fabric of life. She leans back, breathing in the calm, letting herself feel the subtle depth of connection across millennia, as though the night itself is urging her to notice what is unseen yet influential. Tonight, as she reviews the final sequences of the day, the models align once more, confirming what the algorithms hinted at. A lineage, never captured in bone or artifact, has woven itself quietly into the human story. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is simply there, in the undercurrents of survival, in neural responses that guide fear, curiosity, and calm, in subtle adaptations that have made modern humans what they are. The realization is profound but soft, not startling or frightening, only humbling. She allows herself a slow smile, a deep, settling breath, feeling the weight of time and evolution in the most intimate of ways. And it occurs to her that those listening tonight, wherever they may be, could also sense the invisible threads of this lineage shaping thought and body, even as sleep begins to descend. Before we continue, friends, if you haven't yet subscribed, now is the gentle moment to do so. Subscribing ensures that tomorrow's story continues to reach you while you rest, softly guiding you through the next chapter of this journey. And I invite you to leave a comment about your thoughts. Where are you listening from tonight? And what kind of stories do you want to drift into next? The field, the stars, the hidden pathways of evolution. They are all waiting for your curiosity to meet them. And remember, your presence here, even silently listening, is part of this shared reflection across time, a quiet acknowledgement of the invisible currents that connect all living things. She closes her eyes briefly, letting the soft hum of the tent and the faint night wind brush against her senses. The ghost hominin's influence is subtle but persistent in her thoughts, a gentle pull that guides reflection without demanding it. She imagines the ancestors moving through the same spaces she observes today, their footsteps unrecorded, their lives hidden from the fossil record, yet their presence profoundly shaping survival. And she senses that the world itself has always carried these invisible narratives, quiet and patient, waiting for human awareness to align with them in moments of contemplation and discovery. The glow of her monitor dims slightly as she allows herself to drift, letting the mind wander across the layered past. She sees the early humans navigating terrain, balancing risk and reward, and the ghost lineage moving alongside them, influencing, nudging, never intrusive, always precise. These are subtle forces, but forces nonetheless. And she realizes, in a soft, almost hypnotic way, that the human experience is not linear, not isolated, and not purely visible. Influence can be invisible, shaping thought and behavior in ways that defy immediate observation, yet persist across millennia. The magnitude of that thought is gentle, slow and calming, like the rhythm of a long night unfolding around her. Outside the tent, the night continues with muted insistence. Insects hum, wind murmurs through grass, and distant animals shift softly in their own nocturnal patterns. Inside, she settles, the ghost hominin's subtle presence interwoven with her own breathing and heartbeat. Awareness of this lineage is not fearsome, but contemplative, carrying a weightless wonder that extends across generations. And so, as sleep approaches, she leans back and allows the night to cradle her consciousness, letting the quiet hum of existence, the invisible threads of evolution, and the soft pulse of history carry her gently into rest. The story continues, softly, patiently, as it has for hundreds of thousands of years, unseen but never absent. The night has thickened over the plains, folding the African landscape into a deep, gentle shadow. Inside the tent, the researcher shifts slightly, letting her body sink further into the canvas cushion, her thoughts drifting in tandem with the patterns still glowing faintly on the monitor. The ghost lineage remains a quiet companion in her awareness, a subtle presence guiding reflection without intrusion. Each hum of the insects outside, each whisper of wind through the trees, seems to echo the distant rhythms of a world she has never fully seen, but now feels intimately connected to. Time is pliant here, stretching and folding, carrying with it the faint pulse of generations long vanished, yet leaving traces in her mind and body alike. She traces her fingers lightly over her notes, reading diagrams and sequences that hint at connections beyond simple lineage. The ghost hominin's influence appears not just in physical adaptation, but in behavior, in subtle patterns of calm, in decision-making that allowed early humans to navigate uncertainty. These are echoes, not commands, gentle shaping forces that ripple across millennia, leaving their mark in ways invisible to the eye, yet deeply embedded in consciousness. She closes her eyes briefly, imagining early humans moving through the nocturnal landscape, attuned to these imperceptible cues, learning without knowing they were being guided by something beyond their immediate perception. Outside, the plains hum with life. Each sound, cricket, owl, rustling leaf, becomes a note in an invisible symphony of survival. She imagines the ghost hominin moving alongside its human counterparts, a silent presence that adjusts, nudges, and influences without leaving a physical trace. The realization settles in her mind like soft sediment. Influence is not always visible, presence not always tangible, yet its effects endure. It is in the calm that comes before danger, in the patience required to wait for opportunity, in the subtle timing of actions that preserve life. These are the silent instructions carried through DNA, encoded not in words, but in behavior, in patterns that resonate across generations. The researcher leans closer to the monitor, watching lines of code shift and bend as models simulate ancient populations. Each adjustment brings a subtle clarity, a delicate confirmation of what her intuition has sensed all along. The ghost lineage is persistent, undeniable, threading through human history like a river beneath the visible land. She imagines that each of us carries within ourselves a faint echo of this hidden partner, a quiet pulse that influences perception, reaction, and awareness. It is humbling and soothing at once, a reminder that existence is layered and interconnected, that life's complexity stretches beyond what we can see or measure, and that understanding often comes not in certainty, but in attentive observation. Time drifts slowly. The sun, hidden beneath the horizon, has left the world in a subtle glow, the kind that invites reflection and quiet thought. She allows her breathing to match the rhythm of the night, each inhale and exhale soft and measured. The ghost hominin's presence, though invisible, seems tangible in the space around her, a faint vibration in the fabric of reality that aligns seamlessly with the natural environment. She feels the lineage's patience, its subtle persistence, and the gentle guidance it provided to early humans. There is no fear, no alarm, only a profound awareness of continuity, an understanding that life is not singular, linear, or fully knowable, but layered, resilient, and quietly persistent. As the night continues, she tilts her head back, letting her gaze settle on the tent ceiling, listening to the whisper of the wind, the faint chorus of nocturnal life. In her mind, she walks with early humans and their unseen companions, sensing the interactions, the silent shaping of behavior, the invisible currents of influence that ripple across time. And as she drifts toward a more conscious rest, she realizes that the story of humanity is not solely written in stone, nor is it bound by the artifacts we uncover. It exists in patterns, in subtle guidance, in invisible threads connecting the living to the long lost. And within that realization is a soft, enduring calm that settles in her chest, a lullaby of history itself carrying her gently toward sleep. The early hours stretch into a quiet, almost reverent stillness. Inside the tent, the researcher remains seated, letting the dim glow of her monitor blend seamlessly with the encroaching shadows of night. Her mind drifts along the contours of the models she has been running, tracing the subtle influence of the ghost hominin, as if following a faint river under the landscape of human history. Each flicker of data across the screen seems alive, echoing patterns of movement and behavior that once guided early humans. These echoes are soft but persistent, a gentle pull that her consciousness recognizes without needing to fully understand. It is the kind of awareness that lulls the mind while also sharpening it, like hearing the faint rhythm of a heartbeat in an empty room. She lets her fingers hover over the keyboard, not pressing, simply feeling the presence of computation and memory mingling with intuition. Outside, the wind brushes the tent fabric lightly, carrying distant murmurs of nocturnal life. Crickets vibrate softly, leaves rustle in the breeze, and somewhere far off, a night bird calls. Each sound is both ordinary and extraordinary, an ambient note in the symphony of time that surrounds her. She imagines early humans walking in the same spaces, alert yet at peace, guided subtly by instincts that bear the imprint of a presence now long vanished. The ghost hominin's influence is not visible, but is inseparable from survival, like the slow current shaping a riverbed, unseen, yet crucial. The models on her monitor begin to converge, probability lines bending in harmony with one another, confirming subtle suspicions she had held. The lineage she is tracing does not assert itself violently. It flows through generations, persistent yet gentle, guiding without drawing attention to itself. She leans back, eyes half closed, feeling the weight of centuries and millennia folding softly into her awareness. Every probability, every inferred connection feels like a whisper carried by wind, a gentle instruction in the way of calm, resilience, and subtle adaptation. She recognizes that this presence, though invisible in the fossil record, is etched in the human mind, in behavior, in response, and in the rhythm of living itself. Occasionally, she glances at her notes, the sketches of gene flows, maps, and imagined migrations blending into the ambient darkness. Her hands trace these diagrams lightly, almost as if feeling the contours could transmit understanding directly into her body. In these motions, there is a soft meditation, a physical echo of the patterns her mind has followed across time and space. Outside, the plane exhales, the nocturnal world breathing in sync with her, a gentle reassurance that life carries on quietly, resiliently, with invisible guidance embedded within it. She feels a kinship with every creature that shares this night, human and non-human, and an intimate connection to those unseen presences that have shaped existence for hundreds of thousands of years. As the night deepens, her eyelids begin to fall heavier, yet her mind remains alert to the patterns and threads that make life persistent. She envisions the ghost hominin moving alongside early humans, not as predator or threat, but as a subtle companion, influencing behavior, shaping decision-making, guiding movement without leaving trace. This awareness settles into her chest as a calm hum, a gentle pulse that aligns her breathing with the quiet persistence of evolutionary currents. It is a soft, meditative recognition that influence does not always manifest in bones or artifacts, but in subtle tendencies, in instincts, in behaviors, quietly transmitted through time. The tent sways lightly in the breeze, a companion to her slow exhalations. She imagines the night as a continuum of presence, past to present, seen to unseen, tangible to intangible. The ghost lineage is not distant. It exists in the molecules of life, in the behavior of the living, in the quiet shaping of perception and decision-making. And in this realization, she finds a soft clarity, a lull of comprehension that is not startling or urgent, but gentle and persistent. Her consciousness drifts further into this understanding, carried by the rhythm of night, by the pulse of life around her, by the quiet legacy of those who have walked these lands long before her, and whose influence still whispers through the veins of humanity. The night seems to stretch endlessly, a slow, fluid expanse where time and consciousness blend together like ink in water. The researcher sits quietly inside the tent, her body still, yet her mind tracing the intricate networks of influence that span thousands of generations. The ghost hominin lingers softly in her awareness, an invisible companion guiding reflection, a subtle reminder that presence is not always measured by what is seen, but by what quietly shapes the living. Outside, the nocturnal world continues its patient rhythm, wind brushing across leaves, insects vibrating in tiny, intricate symphonies, distant animals moving softly through brush and grass. Each sound is a note in a vast, unending composition of life, a backdrop for understanding the hidden threads that connect past to present. She leans closer to her notes, studying the faint diagrams of gene flow and hypothetical migration paths. Each line, curve, and intersection feels alive under her fingertips, a soft echo of the patterns she has traced digitally. The ghost hominin's influence is not grand or commanding. It is subtle, pervasive, woven into the very fabric of human behavior, survival, and adaptation. She imagines early humans responding to dangers and opportunities with instinctive precision, their decisions shaped quietly by a lineage that no longer leaves bones to study, but whose presence persists in the underlying architecture of thought and survival. It is a realization that humbles her, a gentle acknowledgement of continuity beyond her comprehension. The dim glow of the monitor illuminates her face, reflecting sequences of probability and influence that have become almost meditative in their repetition. She allows herself to breathe slowly, each inhale and exhale sinking to the quiet pulse of the night. Patterns flow in her mind like a soft river, invisible yet palpable, guiding her awareness without urgency or alarm. She can feel the subtle touch of the ghost lineage in human tendencies, caution in certain circumstances, curiosity in others, a calm patience in moments of uncertainty. It is a presence that teaches without words, instructs without force, leaving its mark in the rhythm of thought and behavior that has persisted through countless generations. Occasionally, she closes her eyes and envisions the landscape as it might have existed long ago. Early humans moving across open plains, seeking water and sustenance, interacting with one another in ways shaped by the quiet, guiding presence of those unseen companions. The ghost hominin does not step into view. It moves beside them, invisibly, adjusting, nudging, influencing outcomes without ever revealing itself. She senses the magnitude of such subtle guidance, the immense patience required for influence to persist without evidence, and the way this presence has become inseparable from the story of humanity. It is not a frightening presence, but a comforting one, a gentle reminder that history carries depth far beyond immediate perception. The hours drift by, marked only by the soft changes in wind and temperature, the subtle shifts in ambient sound. She moves lightly, carefully, as though not to disturb the quiet dialogue of the night. Every glance, every gesture, every soft touch of brush on the soil or finger on paper becomes a conduit for understanding, connecting present observation
to past existence. She feels the ghost lineage in these actions, in the patient unfolding of inquiry, in the recognition that influence does not demand visibility to be real. It is the kind of understanding that soothes the mind, filling it with a calm awareness that extends beyond herself and the tent, reaching into time itself. As the night deepens further, she leans back, eyes half closed, letting the rhythm of life outside synchronize with the quiet pulse of her own body. The ghost hominin's presence lingers as an echo in consciousness, not startling or urgent, but persistent, steady, and soft. She imagines the unseen guidance shaping countless generations, the subtle adjustments to survival strategies, the quiet influence on behavior and perception, carried forward invisibly yet enduringly. In this awareness, she finds a gentle clarity, a soft meditation on the interconnectedness of life, the continuity of influence, and the invisible threads that bind the living to those who have walked the earth long before her, leaving their quiet mark in the patterns of existence that continue even tonight.
The horizon begins to soften as a faint suggestion of light creeps along the edge of the plains, though the night itself still holds dominion. Inside the tent, the researcher remains motionless, her attention gently tethered to the quiet glow of the monitor and the delicate patterns that continue to emerge across her simulations. The ghost hominin's presence hums faintly in her awareness, subtle and persistent, threading through the data and her own perceptions alike. Each probability curve she observes carries with it an echo of ancient guidance, invisible yet undeniable, a gentle hand shaping survival and choice through countless generations. She breathes slowly, letting the rhythm of the night synchronize with her own heartbeat, allowing her mind to drift through the centuries without strain or fear. Outside, the plains remain alive in ways that are almost imperceptible. Leaves rustle softly, distant animals stir, and insects maintain their delicate symphony, each movement a soft punctuation in the ongoing story of life. She imagines early humans navigating these same spaces, guided by instincts now partially illuminated by her research. And alongside them, the ghost lineage moves without interruption, a subtle presence shaping behavior and perception, influencing outcomes without leaving tangible proof. This realization presses gently against her consciousness, not as alarm, but as wonder, a quiet acknowledgement of continuity and invisible influence that spans millennia. Her hands trace lightly over notes and sketches, diagrams of gene flow and imagined migrations that seem to vibrate faintly with insight. Every line and curve is more than symbolic. It is a whisper of past interactions, a soft guide connecting early humans to the subtle hand of a vanished species. She leans back, letting her awareness expand across the quiet night, feeling a connection that stretches from the present tent to the undisturbed landscapes of the past. The ghost hominin's subtle guidance seems to settle within her own body, a rhythmic pulse that aligns perception, intuition, and understanding, reinforcing the idea that influence is not always tangible, yet it endures. Time drifts slowly. Her mind revisits moments captured by the models, gently reviewing sequences where small nudges in behavior could have been influenced by unseen presence. Not commands, not pressure, but soft, imperceptible guidance. She visualizes early humans making careful decisions in response to environmental cues, each choice quietly shaped by instincts inherited from a lineage that no fossil record can fully capture. The weight of understanding is light, almost ethereal, settling across her consciousness like a soft fog, both grounding and expansive. It carries with it a quiet reassurance. Life has always been layered, continuous, and subtly directed by unseen currents. The dim monitor light casts shadows that dance across her face and notes, She closes her eyes briefly, allowing the night's sounds to guide her thoughts. The ghost hominin becomes more than just data. It becomes a companion in awareness, an echo of presence that has endured for countless generations. Its influence is not dramatic, not intrusive, but persistent, shaping human adaptation and consciousness in ways both subtle and profound. She feels the rhythm of this guidance within herself, in the gentle pacing of her breath, in the soft understanding that life's continuity is carried not only in what we see, but in patterns imperceptible to the naked eye. Minutes stretch into hours as she leans back fully, letting the quiet of the night settle around her. The tent seems suspended between the present and the deep past, the fabric of reality infused with invisible threads connecting all living beings across time. She imagines the ghost hominin walking beside early humans, unseen, guiding, influencing, yet blending seamlessly into the world without disturbance. The sensation is soft, meditative, and calming, offering a profound sense of connection to the rhythms of life, the persistence of influence, and the quiet but enduring presence of those who came before. And as her consciousness drifts toward deeper rest, she feels the invisible currents of history wrap gently around her, a lullaby of existence that continues long after bones and artifacts fade. The night has deepened once more, folding the landscape into a soft tapestry of shadows and faint whispers. Inside the tent, the researcher sits quietly, allowing her awareness to drift through the interwoven threads of observation, data, and imagination. The ghost hominin lingers gently in her consciousness, its presence neither forceful nor startling, merely a persistent echo of influence that spans countless generations. She breathes slowly, aligning her own rhythm with the subtle movements of the night. Wind brushing leaves, distant calls of nocturnal creatures, the faint rustle of grasses swaying in the open plains. Each sound is a note in the quiet symphony of the night, a reminder that life continues with intricate, invisible choreography. She traces her fingers over the pages of her notes, diagrams of gene flow and imagined migrations forming delicate patterns in her mind. Each curve, each line, is imbued with more than mathematical abstraction. It carries the ghost hominin's soft, persistent influence, a quiet guide shaping adaptation, perception, and behavior through time. She closes her eyes briefly, imagining early humans moving through the same spaces she observes now, aware yet unaware of the subtle forces guiding their instincts. It is a realization that presses lightly against her consciousness, a gentle hum of comprehension that informs without alarming, that illuminates without revealing fully. The monitor casts a faint glow, reflecting sequences of probability and simulated behavior. She leans closer, watching lines bend and converge, the digital patterns mirroring the quiet influence of a lineage lost to time. The presence of the ghost hominin is subtle yet undeniable. It threads through evolutionary history, shaping choices, resilience, and subtle behavioral tendencies. She feels the echo of these invisible currents in her own awareness, a delicate synchronization with the invisible rhythms that have guided survival across millennia. Her breath deepens as she absorbs the notion that life is layered, that influence is not always visible, and that the threads of existence are stitched in ways unseen yet enduring. Outside, the African night hums with life, persistent yet calm. The rustle of nocturnal animals, the faint rustling of leaves, the soft vibration of insects all become a backdrop for reflection, a gentle reminder that existence is both immediate and ancient, visible and invisible. She imagines early humans navigating these same rhythms, guided not by conscious awareness, but by instincts shaped by persistent, unseen influence. The ghost lineage moves beside them without detection, shaping the currents of survival, the cadence of curiosity, and the gentle modulations of fear and calm. It is an enduring presence, patient and subtle, and its imprint resonates quietly through her understanding. Hours slip by with soft imperceptibility. She observes her notes and models without haste, letting each insight settle into her mind like sediment carried by a slow river. The ghost hominin's influence becomes tangible only in the awareness it fosters, a quiet clarity, a gentle recognition of the continuity of life. Each observation, each reflection deepens her connection to the past, bridging the present moment with generations unseen. The sensation is calming, meditative, an invitation to rest while understanding the depth and persistence of influence that spans time and species alike. It is a rhythm she allows herself to follow, soft and unbroken, guiding her toward an inner stillness. The tent sways slightly with the breeze, and she leans back, letting her consciousness expand to include the plain outside and the subtle currents of the night. The ghost lineage remains with her, a soft companion in thought, shaping her awareness and perspective, not through fear or force, but through quiet, persistent influence. She imagines the faint touch of guidance that early humans might have felt, shaping their curiosity, calm, and choices in ways that are invisible yet enduring. And as she allows herself to sink further into that awareness, she feels the rhythm of life and time enfolding her, a gentle continuity that carries through centuries, linking the living to those who have passed, leaving their imprint in the quiet patterns of existence that still resonate under the night sky. The first light of dawn begins to stretch across the horizon, brushing the African plain with pale gold and muted rose. The night's shadows slowly dissolve, leaving the land softened and alive with the subtle pulse of morning. Inside the tent, the researcher sits quietly, sensing the final threads of the ghost hominin's presence lingering in the gentle rhythm of life around her. The models she has traced, the sequences she has analyzed, all converge in a quiet, almost poetic understanding. Influence is not always seen, yet it endures, threading itself delicately through time, shaping survival, perception, and behavior without leaving bones, artifacts, or audible traces. It is the persistence of subtle guidance, the quiet continuity of life itself. She rises slowly, stepping outside the tent to feel the morning air brush her skin. The plains stretch endlessly, bathed in the soft, forgiving light of dawn. Birds call in distant, harmonious sequences. Insects hum in measured rhythms, and the wind moves softly through grass and leaf. Every sound, every movement, carries with it the invisible echoes of generations past, a gentle reminder that the story of life is both present and ancient, tangible and intangible. She closes her eyes briefly, letting the wind carry her awareness outward, connecting her to every creature, every whisper of movement, every subtle trace of the unseen lineage that has persisted alongside humanity for hundreds of thousands of years. Her gaze drifts across the landscape, imagining early humans walking these same plains, making choices guided not by conscious instruction, but by the soft, persistent influence of the ghost lineage. The subtle nudges in behavior, the quiet shaping of instincts, the imperceptible guidance that allowed survival to persist, all resonate with the understanding she carries now. It is a calm, profound recognition. The human story is never solely about visible achievement or preserved artifacts, but about the delicate currents of influence that ripple through generations, invisible yet enduring, shaping minds and movements in ways both gentle and persistent. She returns to her notes and diagrams one last time, tracing lines and curves with her fingertips as though feeling the flow of time itself. Each pattern carries a resonance, a whisper of presence that extends far beyond human observation. The ghost hominin's subtle hand remains, not commanding or imposing, but quietly shaping, softly nudging,
and patiently enduring. She allows herself a slow, deep breath, letting the weightless understanding settle in her chest. Life is not linear, it is layered, fluid, and interconnected. And in that realization, there is peace, a calm comprehension that even in absence, influence persists, carrying forward through time like a gentle, persistent song. As the sun rises higher, illuminating the plains in warm, forgiving light, she feels the quiet culmination of her observation. The ghost lineage has left no traces in stone, no explicit record, yet its presence is undeniably woven into the fabric of humanity, shaping thought, behavior, and perception across countless generations. It is a story written not in artifacts, but in subtle guidance, in invisible currents, in the delicate shaping of instincts that have allowed life to endure. The weight of this understanding is soft and expansive, wrapping around her awareness like the gentle embrace of the morning breeze. She stands at the edge of the tent, looking across the plains one last time, feeling a profound connection to all that has come before. The ghost hominin is gone from view, yet its influence persists, a quiet companion in the ongoing story of life. Each creature, each ripple of wind, each subtle movement of the earth carries the legacy forward, softly, patiently, without fanfare. And in this awareness, she feels the gentle lull of continuity, the unbroken thread of existence that links past, present, and future. It is a meditation, a soft reflection, a poetic understanding that the story of humanity is more than what we see. It is shaped by what quietly persists, guiding, influencing, and enduring through the vast tapestry of time. The plains are fully bathed in morning light now, and she lets her consciousness drift along with the rhythm of life. The ghost lineage, the early humans, the present moment, they are connected by invisible threads, silent yet profound. She breathes deeply, feeling the rhythm of the world align with her own. And as she allows herself to step fully into the day, she carries with her the soft, enduring understanding that life is a continuous, layered story, written not only in sight, but in subtle influence, patience, and the quiet persistence of presence that spans millennia. In this calm comprehension, the night's mysteries fade gently, leaving only the luminous continuity of existence, soft, eternal, and unseen.